is streaming. We're live. So, hey, welcome everybody. It's Johnny Moe. I'm here with our friend and from Keeping Current Matters, David Childers. David, how are you doing today?
Johnny, I'm good. It's a beautiful Friday here in Richmond, Virginia. So doing well.
Excellent. And yeah, it is Friday. And for some reason today, I'm excited that it's Friday. I work every day. I never really stop. I always have projects going on and things. But I'm like, oh, wow, it's Friday. I got, it's the weekend. Doesn't mean anything. Especially for our audience, mostly real estate agents, some
Sure.
LOs and other people. They don't get the weekends off either. And I know a lot of these people are working their face off. And they're putting offers in $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking price, waiving this contingency, that contingency, fat deposits, waiving the deposits, crazy, crazy stuff.
Sure.
And that all leads us a little bit to what's going on with pricing, man. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on. There are a lot of, we were talking before we went live, Johnny. There are a lot of distractions, a lot of things happening in real estate today. A lot of people really, really busy. We're here today. It's March 5th. In a lot of areas of the country, spring starting to come alive, and a lot of anticipation for the spring market. So yeah, let's talk about that. You also tagged me in a comment in LCA today about people talking about foreclosures and things like that. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with what's going on in the market. We'll end with foreclosures. That way everybody can take away that stuff or potential foreclosures.
Yeah, so let's talk about prices. I'll give you where we stand right now. Obviously coming out of 2020, a lot of appreciation. What happens at the end of the year is we get some estimates, but now that we made it through February, we've got the final appreciation numbers. I don't think it's going to surprise anyone, but I will share that with you, and you can see heavy appreciation here. FHFA saying 10.8%. CoreLogic saying 9.2%, Case Shiller 10.4%. So nothing maybe there that's surprising, but 10% appreciation last year in homes. A lot of equity, in folks' homes that are homeowners across the country. I think this underscores this quote right here from FHFA. It says house prices nationwide recorded the largest annual and quarterly increase in the history of the FHA HPI. Low mortgage rates, pent-up demand from home buyers, and limited housing supply propelled every region of the country to experience faster growth in 2020 compared to a year ago, despite the pandemic. And that's the state of our business. I think as we're talking to people, Johnny, just making sure that people that are thinking about getting in the market, clients we're working with, they just understand. They understand what the dynamics of the market are. 2020, we've said, set up this 2021 market, and it's been all about low rates that are now ticking up. We can talk about that. Pent up demand and limited supply. That is the name of the game right now. We saw rates yesterday, according to Freddie Mac, tick up above 3% on the average 30-year fixed as the economy improves, as jobs come back, like we saw in the unemployment report today. Expect rates to go up. I'm not here to predict what rates are going to go, but as the economy improves, rates will begin to go up. And if you would have told me a couple of years ago that you and I would be on a live webinar here talking about rates going up, and they were now at 3, and people were concerned, not many people would have believed it back then, but we're still in a great place relative to 30-year fixed. And home price forecast, even the forecast for this year, experts continue to say it's going to be a really, really good year for real estate across the country. The latest forecast right now, NBA just updated their forecast to say 10.3% appreciation, still the majority there in that 6% range. The average of all 5 or 5.9% appreciation. Certainly this year, the name of the game is going to be a little bit of tick up in interest rates, but limited supply in the housing market, keeping that upward pressure on prices across the country. And I think that even brings up a lot of questions, but suffice it to say, where we sit today, March 5th, and the outlook for residential real estate in this country for this year is very, very positive.
For the seller, it is extremely positive. Sure. And for the buyer that's in the right position, it is. And what I'm seeing, and I'm echoing what I saw in a post on LabCoats. I don't know if it was in the same thread or somewhere else. It might have been a different post. But if you're an FHA buyer and needing closing cost money and all this other stuff, man, this is a tough market for you.
Yeah.
This is a really tough
Yeah.
market.
We distinguish the housing affordability right now, meaning the dollars that you can buy a home for is very, very attractive. Homes are very affordable in that category. Sometimes we get when I talk to people about this, there's a confusion between that and affordable housing, right? The ability for somebody to go out and purchase a home affordably. And we know on the lower end of most markets, that's what's not there, is affordable housing, no doubt. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And take, the lack of supply in housing is what's driving up prices, making it even tougher for somebody to buy a home on the bottom end of any market, or I'm going to call it on the lower half of any market. And no doubt that's one of the biggest issues right now.
Yeah, I've been looking for myself a nice getaway up in the mountains, real quiet, nice piece of land. And it's semi-untouchable. I'm like, I'm not paying that. And it's just high. But that is a problem. And new construction, I mean, let's just talk about that real quick. I mean, new construction could be an option. I was one of the mods posted. I stopped by to see the new builds because they released this was like on Thursday, and on Tuesday they released 70 new units, and they're all gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. So things, depending on where you are, obviously population comes into play, but they're gone. People are gobbling this up. And I get it that housing affordability, but what's the driving factor? That is it a normal market, like in the terms of transactions, or are there more buyers out there, and where did these buyers actually come from? Right. So let's talk about, is it just that there's no houses on there, so the appearance that it's this bubble-ish kind of thing going on, or is this normal activity? What do you think?
Well, there are a lot of questions there that you're asking. So let's go back to what that quote just said. What has driven the market? Low rates, pent-up demand, and I would say in 2020, people saying what we need a home for has changed. There are a lot of people who are like, we'll rent, we'll do something. Pandemic hits, and they're like, we want to buy something. We want our own spot. I think that's very typical of a lot of people, and it's driven this. So I'll show you an interesting graph that I pulled that I think will make sense of some of this, but here would be my argument I would counter with that on. The real issue right now is that housing supply is not keeping up with housing demand. Ultimately, that is measured by population growth. So when you start to compare prior periods in history compared to today, and I can bring these graphs, I don't have them today, we can see the number of homes that aren't being built is the actual issue. And I'll show you that in just a minute. I do have that graphic, but housing supply is not keeping up with demand. And if I had to share that as a visual, I've shared this before. It's this right here. It's total inventory or total listings as compared to the ones that are being brought back to the market. And as quickly as homes come on the market, they sell today. You can see total inventory or total listings in that orange then red bar. We ended February across the country 1.9 months of supply in this country, lower than it's ever been due to the number of people that want to buy. The number of people that want to buy has been dramatically, gas has been poured on that fire by the pandemic and by low rates. People that said, hey, we need to buy a home now, and a 30-year fixed is at 2 and 2.7, 2.8, 2.9. Now we're inching above 3, and the outlook certainly is it's going to go higher. Why is this? Let me show you the best graphic I can give you, Johnny, to make this point. This is single family housing units completed going all the way back to the 70s. And when you start to look at what happened with completing housing units, we know we ran up in 03, 04, and 05. Really 3 years in a row, there are over 1.5 million units completed. Only 3 years in history that's happened. And after the housing crash, we haven't even hit the average of this graphic here for 13 straight years.
Well,
So that delta right there, that's the challenge, is that because those units aren't brought to market, there just aren't enough homes out there. And this does start to spike this bubble conversation. This is a supply and demand issue right now, in what's going on. And I'll show you some things to further prove that. But no doubt it's due to the lack of available homes and units, if you call it that.
That graph you just showed, was that representative of new construction or all homes?
New construction, just new construction. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's way, way down. I mean, look.
So how do we bring new inventory to market? We bring it by new construction, right? I mean, existing inventory is going to come to market, but where the extra comes from is from new builds.
Sure. And let's bring up that inventory conversation compared to that slide that was shared. And I know you shared that slide two or three times ago. That shows a circle graph with the amount of people that are in foreclosure. But there's not the amount, or not foreclosure, but maybe deferment. The number isn't as big that would fill that gap of inventory needed. We're only talking a small number of houses that are potentially going to come to the market because of the deferments and the foreclosures, right? We're not talking about 2008 all over. We're talking about a much smaller number, if in fact it does happen.
Yeah, no doubt. So when we started this out, Johnny, one of the things we said at Keeping Current Matters is the last thing that banks or the federal government want is another foreclosure crisis. I can say that, as truly as anything else out there. And that graphic was shown. That's a KCM graphic that shows the number of people that are in forbearance, the deferral of payments right now. I'll give you the most recent data on that graphic here. This is what that looks like if you saw it in the article that was shared from Housing Wire. Just under 2.7 million people in active forbearance right now across the country. And this is an education piece for a lot of our clients, that say there are 3 million people that can't make their payment. Well, as of February 14th, those that exited, 50.8%, the green area there, they're paid in full. They didn't even need it. They made their payment, they refinanced or paid the loan off, or they didn't make their payment, but made that payment, at the end. They could have been individuals that just said, hey, I'm not sure what's going to happen. And so I'm going to use forbearance as almost an insurance policy. And we saw that happen 1 out of 2 times, and those that are coming off it right now. The area in the blue are those that the bank said, look, we're going to give you a workout plan. The 25.8% have gone through a loan deferment, meaning they've taken those payments and just tacked them on to the end of the life of the loan. 7.8% went through some kind of modification, maybe that's rate and term, some kind of loan modification. So 84% of the people that have come out of forbearance have either not needed it or been, through some kind of workout with their bank where they're made whole in that. Now, I'm not saying there aren't things that are going to come up down the road out of those people, but the overwhelming majority are coming at it very positively. We have 15.6% that there's concern about that, don't have a loss mitigation plan or are in some form of short sale, deed in lieu, distress sale type scenario. There's an article that came out in DS News, which is a servicing magazine, that said this. They said about 325,000 people will exit the forbearance program over the next 6 to 9 months without a plan in place. Some, but probably not all of those loans will likely default. So some of those will default, not all of them, but those are the ones we have to be concerned about, Johnny. I think I always say, this is the reason we need to be talking about forbearance. We need to be making videos. We need to be, sharing things with the people that we serve, the buyers and sellers, or just the clients that we have. If you need help, if you need to do something, we've, mentioned the amount of equity in homes today. Most people can sell their home, put a little bit of money in their pocket, and hopefully survive the crisis their family's going through, and that's what we hope for them. We don't want to see anybody go through through a tough time. But I'll give you another perspective on this. If you take that 325,000 number, according to Altos Research, housing inventory starting each year, going all the way back to 2016, we started this year at the lowest point, just over 325,000 homes on the market. If every one of those homes came to market tomorrow, and nobody's saying that, we wouldn't even be at the level of inventory we were last January.
Wow, that is interesting. And that right there is, I mean, we're at half, little more than half, but half of the inventory January to January from the year. And look at 19, right? That is the problem. That is what's going on. What's the talk around? I mean, how does that get fixed? Obviously more new construction, but so even if all the foreclosures do come to the market, we're still below.
That doesn't supply. That doesn't fix the issue. Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, all the foreclosures come in the market will level out pricing, in my opinion, right? Because now there's more on the market. But what's the answer? Is there any buzz around what a potential answer could be?
Well, I think these are big issues that are talked about in our industry. Affordable housing is one of those issues, like we've talked about, the availability of affordable homes in this country for people to go out and buy. And when we start to get into a scenario where prices are rising quickly, that makes that challenge even greater. I think this year, let's talk about what experts are saying this year, because some of those issues are bigger than we're able to talk about on this call. But I think most experts are saying a couple of things. We'll see more inventory on the second half than we'll see on the first half, but I do expect we'll see more inventory come to market as people feel safer. And that's going to be a byproduct. As the economy improves, people feel safer. It'll come from those affected by the pandemic. There are going to be people that say, you know what, we're going to have to sell our home. We can't afford it anymore. It's going to come to market this year by those that say, you know what, we didn't do something. There are a lot of people that made a decision not to sell their home last year because of health concerns, things like that. And the last one is what you said: builders are building. At the end of the year, starts and permits were at an all-time high, so we can expect those builders to bring that inventory back to market. But even right now, builders are facing some headwinds relative to pricing and supply costs, lumber cost. So I think there's a lot in the market right now that we're going to continue to watch to say, how does it all play out?
Sure.
But
Consumer confidence.
if you're thinking about this being 2008 all over again, and we've covered that extensively, the numbers just don't support it.
Yeah.
I will say this though, Johnny. I've talked to a lot of people in the last couple of weeks that say, you know what, this may not be 2008, but it feels like maybe like 2006 all over again.
Yeah.
That's the question that people are feeling concerned about right now.
Yeah. And, consumer confidence is up, but I also think while consumer confidence is up, people that survived that 2008 stretch to 2012, the people that survived that, they might be a little bit more gun shy. Maybe more, people are staying home more over the past year, so they're able to save more money, so they're able to buy more things, buy more house. They realize, wow, we don't need to go out every single day. So in some respects, consumer confidence is up. And when you see people buying houses for $20,000, $30,000 over asking price, waiving, appraisals and all these other crazy things, confidence, in my opinion, must be way off the roof, or you are desperate for housing, right? In that particular area, your options bring you to that area for whatever reasons, work, family roots. But what can change that house that's at 400,000 today? And if it's 400,000 next week, but rates bump up, you're paying more. So what are rates looking like right now? And would an increase in rates cool this market down? So I know it's going to take the affordability factor down for some.
I think it's a great question. Say again?
Do you think it'll cool that down some?
So let's look at the outlook. Let's think about this. Rates right now, I think came out yesterday, are just over 3%, 3.02 on the average 30-year fixed. The outlook is that we're going to go, higher. I think it's going to, and then prices are going to appreciate. I think we're going to see that, cause some people to say, maybe not, but likely not to squelch demand, because always remember, an improving economy coming out of a recession, the byproduct is going to be higher rates. So what do you have when you have higher rates? You have more people that can qualify because the economy is improving, jobs are coming back. So likely in a rising interest rate scenario, it's a better economic scenario. Let me give you a couple things to think about in pricing, because I know we got to hop here in a minute. That there another webinar coming up, but I think we're likely to see price, remain, a factor of supply and demand rather than, the economy. We did a little bit of look going back to that question, the comparison of the years leading up to 2006 and the years leading up to today. And you can see on the left, the 4 years leading up to 2006, the average appreciation in this country was over 10% in those 4 years. The average appreciation in the 4 years leading up today is just over 6%. Now, we had a lot of appreciation last year. I just went through that. But when you start to look at the numbers, you see a big difference in price appreciation in this country when we go back and we look at the years leading up to the housing crash. And my comment of, I know it's not 2008, but it feels like it could be 2006. It's a very different scenario when you just look at the numbers, because the emotion of that says it feels the same to folks. If we go and we look at this as well, our team pulled the fourth quarter of 2020 in this FHFA map, 10.8% on average by them across the country. And you can see regions in the country are generally near that, 11.6% on the West Coast, in the middle there, 8 or 9%, 10, 12% on the East Coast. Now, we pulled the same data for the fourth quarter of 2005, leading into 2006, and it tells us a very different story. And just look at the difference here, Johnny, and the way price was affected in this country leading up to the housing crash. What do we see on the West Coast? Almost 20% appreciation when the average of the U.S. was 13%. We saw that in the southern states as well, but in the middle of the country, 6% appreciation. Up in New England, 10% appreciation. So there are some fundamental differences the way price is reacting right now to what we saw back then in the lead up to the housing crash.
Yeah. So there you all have it. And I always like to end these things giving you a piece of advice that I would do if I was still hawking houses. I would get Sales Genie. I would get Cole Realty Resources something. And with with Sales Genie, I know that you can go in there and find out people who have owned for 20 years plus or whatever in their ages. So you can go in there, manipulate this data, thousands of data points, to come out with a list of potential probability. Then there's other things like Remine, and there's another one, I can't think of what it is. You should be using these tools and come up with these predictive lists to reach out to these people, taken with what you just learned, and because you get a subscription to Keeping Current Matters. And if you don't, you can try it free for 14 days by going to keepingcurrentmatters.com, right?
Yep. And
get this data and be able to be educated when you talk to somebody and say, listen, you bought your house in 2011. It has appreciated X amount %. We could sell your house and you can make, and that is, somebody posted something great the other day, said the best part-time job I ever had was buying my house. And they listed in there how much their house appreciated over the several years that they've had it, and they had it broken down to making $46.25 per hour.
Right.
I thought it was great. So everybody,
or just asking the question, Johnny, do you know how much equity you have in your home?
Right. And that might be enough for me to say, I'm out of this cold weather in New England. I'm heading down to Charleston, where they got a great food scene, and it seems to always be summer. So be educated, man. Listen, the people aren't just going to knock on your door, all this other stuff. You got to go find it. And the people that really excel in this business, they do a little bit more. Just like Sam Parker says, at 211 degrees, water's hot. At 212 degrees, it boils. Boiling water creates steam, and steam moves locomotives. Do that little 1 degree more. David Childers, always a pleasure. Y'all go to keepingcurrentmatters.com, get your free 14-day trial if you don't have it. It's what is it, $30?
$29 a month. Yeah.
I don't even want to have the conversation whether you can afford it or not, y'all. Just go there and get it. It's $1 a day.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
See y'all in 2 weeks.